Happy New Year, everybody. ND Sports Talk. Thank you for joining in, ringing in the 2013 year, saying goodbye to 2012. I'm Tyler on a special Notre Dame Sports Nation podcast. Now, before we get to the bells and whistles and the ball dropping of the new year, and before welcoming in 2013, let's take a moment and look back upon an undefeated season, a national championship run, and just a fun season for the 2012 Fighting Irish. Something fun to be a part of, and it all started back in Dublin, Ireland, the homeland of Notre Dame, at the Emerald Isle Classic, playing against Navy, the Naval Academy, and a fun team to play against, a team that kept the University of Notre Dame open in tough times, and always a gracious opponent for Notre Dame. Notre Dame came away with a victory of 50-10, but more than a victory for Brian Kelly, it was a good start and an eye-opening victory, something that showed how the defense would be playing for the rest of the year, a start for a young quarterback in Everett Golson, and an opening of a run game that nobody could have expected. Theo Riddick, George Atkinson III starting that run game, Robbie Toma with a couple carries, and a great victory for the Irish, leading to a great overtime win where all the hype was kind of surrounded and started at this point, where the question rose, are you going to drink the green Kool-Aid? Are you going to buy into the Notre Dame Fighting Irish and the luck of the Irish against Stanford back in mid-October, when Notre Dame came away with a 20-13 victory with 2 goal line stands led by inside linebacker Manti Te'o. A great win, and something that started kind of a whispering, kind of a mumbled, maybe we can go to a national championship. Maybe we are the best team in college football right now. That's kind of where it all started. And then the true test came at Oklahoma when Notre Dame stormed Norman. Sierra Wood with a 60-yard rush for a touchdown in a win over number 8 Oklahoma, to prove to the nation that Notre Dame is for real, that this is something that we deserve to have, a top-ranked team. Then again tested with Pittsburgh and even BYU. But on November 17th, a very vivid memory of mine, Baylor over Kansas State and Stanford upsetting Oregon, 2 top-ranked teams, number 1 and 2, completely opening doors for the Fighting Irish to be the number 1 team in the nation, and to have only 1 game left on the schedule that is a must-win, and that was USC. Now, this is a very similar story going back to 1988, the last time Notre Dame had won a national championship. That was in the Lou Holtz era, when all doors were open for Lou Holtz and the Irish. The number 1 team, UCLA Bruins, led by Troy Aikman, were upset by unranked Washington State 34-30, opening doors for the Irish to be the number 1 team in the nation and play their way to a national championship, which would be the Fiesta Bowl against West Virginia, which we will get to later on in the show. Back to the memories of the 2012 season. After the doors were open to be the number 1 team in the nation, Notre Dame had that 1 game left on their schedule against USC. Now, this game against USC would not only be the deciding factor of Notre Dame going to a national championship or not, but it was a very interesting game because both teams had gone through unique changes. Notre Dame starting the season unranked before playing Navy, now the number 1 team in the nation, and USC, on the other hand, being the number 1 team to start the season, being the most fearful game on Notre Dame's schedule next to Oklahoma and Michigan. Now the tables have completely turned, and the number 1 team, Notre Dame, walking into Southern Cal to play an unranked Trojan team. Now, aside from the national championship talk, the number 1 hype, being ranked or unranked, This was a rivalry game, the biggest rivalry game Notre Dame has. This was a game, the battle for the Jewel Tulele. This is everything in Notre Dame football. This is the game that is starred at the start of the season and looked upon after the season. Brian Kelly knew this was a must-win. The players knew this was a must-win, and they went out there and they performed on the field, getting the job done, winning 22-13 over USC, completely stopping them on a huge goal line stand, and proving to the nation that the Fighting Irish deserve to be the number one team in the nation, and also punching their ticket to the national championship in Miami, Florida, where we come to you now, Notre Dame Nation, in sunny South Florida, with preparation for the big game, the national championship between number 2 Alabama and number 1 Notre Dame. Plenty to come from this game. Just a little preview where Notre Dame has come from. The last national championship, 1988. The last championship for Alabama would be last year against LSU. Two great teams, two solid defensive teams. Alabama allowing 10.7 points on defense. Notre Dame 10.3. Very solid defensive teams with big front seven defenders. Alabama on their depth chart, number 1 to 11. All 11 players they put on their field are going to be fast, strong, and big. Notre Dame, defensively, you could say the same thing. A great defensive secondary led by safety Zeke Mata. Inside, linebacker Manti Te'o leading the defense. On the offensive side of the ball, this is where Alabama kind of ups the notch on Notre Dame with quarterback A.J. McCarron. They have a great wide receiver core where A.J. can throw the ball up. They have a great running back. Alabama's going to push, and really try to get things going. They're not going to let Notre Dame try to slow things down or play small ball, if you would say. But Notre Dame, on the other hand, has a great defense where they've been challenged by top receivers in USC. They've been challenged by a fast quarterback in Michigan, and they've held those players down. They've held the offense to less than 20 points on each occasion. Michigan only allowing 3, forcing all those turnovers. Notre Dame has understood what every test is going to be like, and I know that this time Brian Kelly and Bob Diaco, head defensive coordinator, understand how important it is for the Notre Dame defense to play solid and fundamentally, but also to control the clock and to make sure that Alabama's offense isn't getting on a roll and having those big plays, stay in that cover 2 deep set, and focus on controlling the Alabama wide receivers and not letting A.J. McCarron sit back in the pocket and throw a lot of deep passes. You have to get Manti Te'o, Lewis Nix, Captain Lewis Moore downfield, pushing on A.J. McCarron, make him nervous in the pocket. As you can tell, I'm a little excited about this national championship game, as I'm sure most of you are. There will be plenty more coverage and pregame talk to come from leading up to the national championship game. There will even be a couple podcasts from the stadium, as I will be at the game here in Miami, Florida. So keep it locked here, ND Sports Nation, for all the BCS Notre Dame preview and talk. I'm Tyler from Notre Dame Sports Nation, wishing everybody a safe and happy New Year.